So let's talk about your AgniKul.
Yep.
AgniKul is in not passenger transport yet, but is in a very exciting space.
Literally.
Quite literally.
Yes.
Let's talk about AgniKul. Where did the idea start, and where is it now?
Yeah. So just like how I said, large aircraft are actually giving way to smaller aircraft, and we need to actually make things more compact. The same kind of thing is also happening in the space sector, where electronics is becoming smaller, miniaturized. Cameras are becoming extremely small. So satellites are actually shrinking in size and weight. It's now possible for you to actually order a satellite kit from Amazon to actually put together a satellite, like a frame, and the what they call as they measure it in something called U's. So many U's of satellite and stuff. These are CubeSats, and practically you can put a satellite together within about 6 months with all of that stuff. But how do you launch it? How do you go to space with it? So today's rockets that actually take you to space are all from the older generation, which is the very large way of doing it. And so they typically have like one large customer, which is a satellite that's about 1,000 plus kgs. And lots of these small satellites that could be less than 100 kgs, 50 kgs. Some of them are nano satellites or pico satellites that are only like a few kgs or even some grams kind of.
With very niche functionality built into them.
So, and these are actually coming out of startups and small companies that have very specific needs to fulfill. So they have their own financial ecosystem that caters to them. Right now, they're compelled to do a ride share for which they have to wait in line for about 2 to 3 years. So it just doesn't make sense to make a satellite in 6 months and then wait for 2 years. And then during the wait time, you actually are incurring overheads. And that has become making small satellites financially unviable. So we are essentially trying to unlock that particular, pathway for small satellites, and thereby, in some sense, democratize space access to lots of players.
Uber-ized space access.
Uber-ized. So
you
effectively,
go into an app and you ask for time on a rocket, and
in
it's
fact,
there.
AgniKul's website exactly does that. So if you go to AgniKul's website, they will ask you to actually configure your the rocket to suit your spacecraft. Again, the customer orientation is coming up now with the startups.
Fantastic. Thinking that it was completely alien to aerospace engineering for 100 years, now. Fantastic. So what's the technology? What's under the hood?
Well, so that's interesting. So the way we wanted to actually do this is just very similar to E-plane, where it has to actually come and pick you up where you are. So the tagline for AgniKul is launch anywhere, anytime, affordably. And that means that whenever you have your satellite ready and come to me, I will have to actually make a rocket that is customized for you and launch it within the next 15 days. And for this, we actually make a completely 3D printed engine. And this engine is actually much more difficult to do otherwise. If you were to do a conventional manufacturing, you could actually get an engine up in 15 days, all right, but it would mean that you have a production line of bunch of engines that are there, and you're kind of pulling them out of the production line every 15 days sort of thing. But each of those engines will take about 3 months to make. And that means that you have to have inventory for that purpose, and you have to have orders for it and all those things. Whereas here is actually more like a custom launch. And that is possible with making an engine in just about 3 days. Completely out of 3D printing. And then we, of course, have to assemble it with tanks and all of that stuff, which is what takes the remaining of the 15 days to go to the launch pad.
So the whole effort, which would have taken months on end, is now down to days, if not weeks. And the access itself, as you said, is far more democratic. Anybody could launch a satellite that, with some niche functionality that they desire. What's the primary business driver for something like this? I mean, it's clearly, I can't see people wanting to launch their own satellites in the thousands as individuals or companies. Or do you see that? Do you see companies wanting to own their own satellites?
Yes, there are at least about 1,200 small satellite companies in the world.
No, a company that wants to own its own satellite configuration.
Typically, it will be satellite services. So in fact, the services business actually has more money. So if you think about it, the satellite makers want to offer the satellite as a service. The launch vehicle makers want to offer the launch vehicle as a service. All right, and very similarly, that taxi is actually a service for e-plane. So the repeated use of the same hardware is actually where the money is for many of these companies. But there is a huge clientele for the satellite services. That's essentially what this entire industry is counting on.
And it's far more efficient utilization of the capital
Indeed,
expenditure as well.
indeed.